Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung is making his international debut this week at the G7 summit in Canada. Though Korea isn't a member of the G7, President Lee is attending as an invited guest just 12 days into office. He's expected to meet with leaders from the U.S., Japan, and other major economies to discuss tariffs, global trade, and energy security, and others. He'll also deliver a key presentation on AI-linked energy strategies. Now, this trip is about more than just diplomacy. It's the first appearance on the global stage since last December's martial law crisis in Korea, which shook the country's democracy. According to the presidential office, this will be a chance to show the world that democratic Korea is back. And with high-level meetings still being arranged, the president is using this G7 moment to reintroduce South Korea as a key player committed to what he calls pragmatic diplomacy in a fast-changing global order. For a deeper discussion on this, we are joined by Ki-yuk Shin, director of Walter H. Shorenstein Asia Pacific Research Center, here at the studio with us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So let's delve right into our discussion. So like I've said, President Lee Jae-myung will attend G7, and though he's just less than 2 weeks into his office, what do you think is the reason behind his decision to attend?
So as you said, it's a little early because he has been in the office only for like 12 days. But at the same time, this is very important opportunity for him and his administration. As you know, Mr. Lee is relatively unknown to the outside world. I don't think he has met any of G7 leaders personally yet. So therefore, it's a great opportunity for him to say hello and get to know them, and then saying that he can be a very good partner working with all those leaders. Also at the same time, he can send a clear message to the outside world that Korea values, or his administration values, alliance with democratic world leaders. Especially there's some speculation or impression that Mr. Lee might be pro-China, whether it's true or not. So therefore, it can be a good opportunity to reiterate the importance of democracy and liberal international order to the outside world.
Right, so it's definitely an important moment, especially following South Korea's, vacancy of leadership for a lot of months. Now, so with that in mind, Director, President Lee is also pushing for a pragmatic foreign policy, as we know. So on his first stage, multilateral stage, what do you think should he focus the most on?
Okay, so he's been talking about pragmatic diplomacy, and still we don't know yet what that means. Of course, as I understand, I think he's trying to continue to strengthen the alliance with the United States, but also engage China and North Korea, which I totally agree. But then it's not easy to pursue that because of growing tension between US and China. So I think I met some people in Korea, and some of them kind of joking that, sure, we can say, thank you to Washington, and sheshe to Beijing, and arigato to Tokyo. But it's much, it's much easier to be said than be done. So how he can, pursue pragmatic diplomacy to maximize Korean national interests, it's a really daunting task. And also one thing I'd like to add is that by saying that he's trying to be flexible and accommodating, that doesn't mean that he ignore or neglect fundamental values such as democracy and liberal international order. So I think he needs to reiterate that he also appreciates those values while pursuing pragmatic diplomacy.
Right. So it's a very important state to set the tone. Especially, he has to balance ties
Right.
and also keep Korea's interests as well. Now, let's also touch upon America, Director. So one key moment will be President Lee's first encounter with his American counterpart, President Trump, of course. Whether it will be a formal summit or an informal chat, how do you think we should prepare for that?
Okay, so it's most likely to be more like informal talks. And I think I can say two things. One is, once again, this is a first meeting. And then it's important to leave a good impression to Trump and other leaders. And I think there's a temptation to try to do too much, but it could backfire. So my advice is to be a little more cautious and patient, and don't try to achieve everything in one meeting. Especially, Korea is not a regular member of G7. Okay, so there's certain limitation on how much he can do at this G7 meeting. So, and then the other one, Trump tends to say something out of blue. So in other words, something may happen that he might be prepared. For example, like he says something like about tariff or whatever, and then out of courtesy, Mr. Lee may say, I understand, I appreciate, but then Trump may come out saying, Mr. Lee and I agree on certain things publicly. Then what are you gonna do? Because then you cannot say I didn't agree, or it's hard to follow up. So. Given that Trump tends to do something like those things, maybe prepare for any contingency during those meetings.
Right, that would be very important, given that President Trump has unpredictable.
Right, so that's sort of my concern that you never know.
Right.
Especially, we saw what happened between Trump and Zelensky, and also South African president in Oval Office. So. But of course, this is a very informal, most likely casual meeting. So it may not happen, but still, it's better to get ready for the worst case scenario. Yeah.
So speaking of trade with President Donald Trump, of course, it's a very important thing at this point between the two countries. Now, with the U.S. and China finalizing their second deal, how do you think South Korea should approach its July package coming up with Washington?
So it's a very tough issue, and it's coming. And tariff is only one of several things that U.S. may be asking. So I think the first thing is maybe Korea might have like a grand strategy, okay, tariff, burden sharing, North Korea, and so on. So that tariff is part of that grand scheme. And then within that, I think there are two dimensions. One is economic, the other one political. So economically, Korea needs to emphasize that Korea has been very useful to United States, because Korea has been a major investor in the United States. In recent years, Korean companies like Samsung, SK, Hyundai Motor, they are really increasing their investment in the United States. And also, Korea has been freight trades, partner with the United States, only one of very few countries. So I think we need to re-emphasize, those values to, United States. But at the same time, there's a political dimension as well, because I don't think this tariff is purely economic. So there are political dimension. So one is that we have to accommodate in a certain way. I don't think you can say no to everything the United States is asking. So we can think about then in return for what Korea will give to United States, what are you gonna get in return? I mean, that's one thing. And then also, I think eventually the target for U.S. is China. And then make it clear to U.S. that Korea can be a very important partner or ally for United States in dealing with China. So, and then maybe make sure that we can have Trump claim certain political victory throughout trade negotiations. So it's very complex, but I think we will have to approach in such a way. I think one good news is that I heard that Mr. Yohan-gu was reappointed as trade minister. I think he served as trade minister, the same position during Moon Jae-in government. It's very rare for someone to come back after 3-4 years. So that means that probably the new government appreciates his experience in negotiating with Trump, because as you may know, during Trump won, Korea had to renegotiate free trade agreement with the United States, and then he was a key player. So I think that's more positive news in my mind.
Mm-hmm. So we have to keep in mind economic, benefits that we would prefer, give to Washington, and also some political benefits in terms of ties with Washington. Now, so with this, Director, do you think there's a little bit of room for negotiation in reality with Washington?
I think so. I mean, first thing now, I think the deadline is July 8th. Certainly during meeting with Trump or after, Korea can ask for extension, because it's only like how many days left? Only like about 2 weeks left. It's a very tight schedule. And also, if you look at what Trump has been doing with other countries, he making a huge claim or demand, but in the end, he settled down onto something more reasonable. So I don't think, I think in his view, that's his art of negotiation. But I think there's certainly room and space for Korea to deal with the United States.
Mm-hmm. So we'll really have to continue knocking the door with President Trump. Now let's speak beyond tariffs, Director Shin. Issues like defense costs and U.S. troop presence here in the country are also in play with Washington. And before, you've mentioned that buying time could be a key strategy for this. Could you elaborate?
Sure. Okay, so in terms of like cost or burden sharing, I mean, probably Korea will have to pay more. I don't think Korea can say just no. Okay, so once again, but then in return, what are you gonna do? So for example, like maybe just like Japan, Korea can demand for the right to reprocess nuclear waste. Okay, so that's what Japan has, but Korea doesn't have. So I think that's a more short-term negotiation, but then something like strategic flexibility, that's a more long-term goal, and it's a very difficult question for Korea. I think it's much more challenging than paying more money, because by strategic flexibility, that means that U.S. wanted to use U.S. troops in Korea more flexibly, not just defending South Korea. For example, if there's any tension between China and Taiwan occurs, then can USFK be deployed to support U.S. forces in Taiwan, for example? Okay, that means that also Korea may end up fighting against China as well. So that's a more long-term and then very challenging task. But I think it's coming. So when I say buying time or be patient, is that the Trump era is very unusual for United States. I've been saying that U.S. today is no longer the country that we used to be knowing. Even I've been living in the States now for more than 40 years. I have never seen a period like this. It's a very unusual situation. And then even compared to the first term, now Trump is really pushing his agenda very hard from the beginning of the second term. Okay, but at the same time, this is not going very well. I mean, tariff negotiation, I don't think U.S. is getting huge benefit. he promised to end the wars in Europe and in the Middle East. But as you know, it's been rather escalating, right? And the migration issue, a lot of protests, and then so, things not really going very well for Trump. So if he continues like this one, then he may lose the midterm election next November. And then if his party lose, typically a ruling party lose in midterm election, then if that happens, then he could be in lame duck. And then even if he wins, he's not going to stay in his office forever. So that's why like a 2-year, 4-year more long-term, thinking. So I think Korea needs to adjust depending on the issue, whether you are going to address more immediately or take time and buying time, and then address more for long-term solution.
So we have to look into the situation in the U.S. with Trump's term as Trump's term unfolds.
Because like in any country, including Korea, domestic politics really affect foreign policy as well. So that's why we should watch American domestic politics very closely as well.
Right, that will be very important. Now, Director Shin, you mentioned in the start of our discussion that President Lee might be, wanting to, mend ties with China even before the election as well. But with U.S. pressure and trilateral cooperation with Japan also in the motion, how do you think South Korea could be able to keep the balance?
Yeah. So I think once again, theoretically, it's possible, and then makes a lot of sense, but in practice, it's very difficult. And I think so far, Mr. Lee Jae-myung has emphasized the value of alliance, but then also he's also making gesture toward North Korea. I'm sure he's going to engage in China. So I think that's the right direction to go. But then, how you want to achieve that, that's a very difficult issue. And also, during G7, there's a possibility of a trilateral meeting with Trump and Ishiba. And actually, I was on this program early last year, and then we talked about how to strengthen, trilateral cooperation. Then we were kind of predicting, 2024, and I was saying that maybe, by the end of the year, Biden may be gone, Kishida may be gone, then Yoon may have to deal with. But actually, I was half right and half wrong because now Yoon is gone too, right? So, in a sense, it's a totally new ball game. So now we have 3 different leaders, new leaders for all 3 countries, right? Trump, Ishiba, and then Lee. So how to strengthen trilateral cooperation, but at the same time, engaging China and North Korea, it's a very tough issue. So that's why I keep saying that let's be a little patient. Don't try to do too much, and then let's do step by step.
By looking at the situation, it's a very tightrope walk indeed. Now, let's look ahead. There's also growing speculation that President Lee might attend the NATO summit later this month. So from his pragmatic diplomacy lens, what could be a smart approach for President Lee?
Okay, so my view, probably he might make a decision after G7. Then they might, or his team may reassess the situation. So my view is that if they are ready, then it doesn't hurt going there. But then at the same time, I don't think it's necessary. And I know this is not a popular view here in Seoul. But I think if he's very busy, right? He just got into his office, and after attending G7, then he might go to New York to attend UN General Assembly meeting, and then Korea will have to host APEC early November. So I think APEC will be most important for Korean diplomacy and for the Lee administration. So certainly attending NATO is fine, but at the same time it's not that necessary. And there's certain political dimension. Let's say if he doesn't go, or doesn't attend, then there may be some domestic critiques that he may not value the alliance with the Western world. But at the same time, he attends NATO meeting. I mean, NATO is basically security organization against Russia, and then there's certain political message as well. So I think overall, once again, my view, it doesn't hurt, but I don't think it's necessary to attend at this point.
Director, you've mentioned about APEC as well. We have to touch upon that too. And you said it's a very important moment for South Korea to host the APEC. What do you think the government can actually do to make this moment a more diplomatic launch pad for South Korea?
So this is a very rare opportunity because it doesn't happen very often, maybe every other 20 plus years, right? And then Korea had a political turmoil for 6 months from last December until early this month. So I think having or hosting a major international diplomatic meeting is very important. And I think among other things, I like to emphasize 2 things. One is Korea can tell to the world about democratic resilience. So when martial law was declared early last December, the world was really shocked. I mean, because Korea has been a democratic nation for many decades. The martial law in late 2024, it's hard to think about. But then despite all those challenges, Korea weathered through pretty well. Martial law, impeachment, and snap election. I think it's a great story to share because many countries, including the United States, are having democratic crisis. So I think Korea can be seen as an exemplary case of overcoming democratic challenges to restore. I mean, that's a great story. And the other one, I think Xi Jinping is likely to come because China is the host country of APEC next year. So the question is whether Trump will come as well. And then if both leaders come to Korea, it can be a great opportunity for Korea to, I didn't say mediate, but at least having meeting with Trump and Xi Jinping in Korea. So I think it can send a good message to the world. And once again, while valuing alliance but still engaging China. I mean, I think that's what Mr. Lee has in mind, as I understand. So I think it can be a good opportunity to send a message to the world.
So since it's a home game, it will definitely
Right.
be a chance for us to lead
Yes.
rather than just participate.
It's a home game. Yeah.
Yeah. So finally, let's also touch upon North Korea, Director Shin. Washington is reopening the door to letter diplomacy like we've been seeing in the news lately. And you've said the U.S. will likely not bypass South Korea. Could you tell us why?
Okay, so during Moon Jae-in government, I've been saying, so the Korean government saying that we are driver or mediator, and I said that don't say that, but rather Korea should be a pacemaker. So in marathon, right? I mean, there's usually a pacemaker for the eventual winner. So I think in a sense, U.S. needs pacemaker to finish the line. Okay, and especially right now, even though Trump may wanted to resume summit diplomacy with Kim Jong-un, the situation is not that favorable. For example, he's occupied with so many things, domestic and foreign. I mentioned about wars in Middle East and then Europe escalating, and all domestic agenda. And Kim Jong-un may not be eager to come to the table, very easily because now I think he felt he was humiliated with what happened in Hanoi, and then now he has more leverage by strengthening military ties with Russia. So I don't think North Korea has any incentive or interest to come to the table anytime soon. So now I think South Korea can play certain role, and then kind of pacemaker. I think that's a role that Korea can play. I think Washington will appreciate such a role. I don't think Washington can ignore Seoul entirely and make a deal with Pyongyang. So I mean that's why Korea can play a role, but at the same time understand reality. So that's my view.
Right. So more than Hanoi, South Korea can do better and become a good pacemaker.
Yes.
In this new talks with potential talks with North Korea and Washington. That will be a good point to wrap up our discussion at this point. Director Shin, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you. It's just such a pleasure to be here.
And thank you so much for making time for us tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
And that will be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.